Welcome to the Blanco Wellness Podcast. Thank you for being here. Take a breath. Let your body soften slightly. And let's spend some time today with something that most people offer generously to everyone around them and withhold almost entirely from themselves. Think about the kindest person you know. Not the most successful, not the most impressive, the kindest. The one who makes people feel genuinely seen when they are in the room, who listens with their whole attention, who seems to carry a quality of warmth that does not depend on circumstances being easy or people being at their best. Now ask yourself a different question. How often do you offer that same quality of kindness to yourself? For most people, the honest answer is rarely, if at all. The same person who extends patience and understanding to a friend navigating difficulty will turn on themselves with a harshness they would never direct at anyone they cared about. The mistakes that would be met with compassion in someone else are met with contempt when they are your own. The struggles that would earn a friend gentle encouragement earn you from yourself a running inventory of everything that should be different. People are often extraordinarily generous outward and quietly merciless inward, and this asymmetry tends to go unexamined for years because the internal voice presents itself as honesty rather than as the cruelty it would be recognized as if it were directed at someone else. The Buddhist practice of metta, often translated as loving kindness, begins from a recognition that most traditions either overlook or underemphasize. Genuine kindness must include yourself, not as an afterthought, but as a foundation. The practice involves the cultivation of genuine goodwill, first toward yourself, then gradually extending outward to those you love, to those you are neutral toward, and eventually to those you find genuinely difficult. Not as a performance of feeling you do not have, as the patient, repeated offering of a simple wish. May you be well, may you be at peace, may you be free from unnecessary suffering. The instruction to begin with yourself is not an act of selfishness, it is the recognition that what we consistently withhold from ourselves tends to be what we find most difficult to genuinely offer outward. The burning coal image from the Buddhist tradition is precise in a way worth sitting with. Resentment or bitterness or the sustained refusal to extend any kindness toward yourself. These things do not primarily affect their apparent target. They affect the person carrying them. The coal burns the hand that holds it, not the person it was meant to be thrown at. This is not an argument for pretending that harmful things were not harmful, or for offering warmth to people who have genuinely damaged you before you are ready to do so. It is an observation about what the carrying costs and who pays the price of it, and whether that price is worth what the carrying is producing. Think about someone who wronged you in the past. Someone whose behavior was genuinely hurtful and whose memory still surfaces with a charge to it. How much mental space do they still occupy? How much of your emotional life are they still shaping, long after the actual relationship or event has concluded? Sometimes the person moved on entirely unaffected, and the person still living inside the impact of what happened is the one who was hurt. The resentment stayed long after the event ended, and the resentment became heavier than the original wound, not because the wound was not real, but because the carrying continued past the point where it was serving any useful purpose. The Buddhist teaching on this is not that harmful behavior should be excused or that boundaries should be removed. Kindness and clear boundaries are entirely compatible. In fact, genuine kindness often requires them. The teaching is more specific. Hatred does not resolve the wound it was generated by. Understanding does. Not understanding as approval, not understanding as the erasure of accountability, but understanding as the honest recognition that every human being, including the ones who have hurt you, is navigating their own confusion and fear and accumulated wounds. This recognition does not require you to invite anyone back into your life. It only requires that you stop spending your own present energy on sustained hostility towards someone whose power over your life you could, with some genuine effort, begin to reduce. The Taoists observed the natural world for instruction on almost every question. And on the question of self-judgment, they found something worth naming. Nothing in nature fights itself. The river does not hate itself for moving slowly through a particular stretch. The flower does not criticize itself for blooming later than the one beside it. Every living thing follows its own particular nature with what appears to be a complete absence of self-reproach. And through that faithfulness to its own nature becomes exactly what it is meant to be. Human beings are the only part of nature that develops elaborate systems of self-attack and then mistakes those systems for the mechanism of growth. The mechanism of growth, as the natural world consistently demonstrates, is something more like nourishment. Patient, consistent, genuine care applied to the actual conditions rather than the ideal ones. A person can acknowledge a mistake honestly without turning it into a verdict on their fundamental worth. A person can choose to do better without the motivation of sustained self-punishment. A person can grow significantly without first needing to believe they are broken. This is the practical wisdom underneath loving kindness. Not that standards should be abandoned or that accountability should be avoided, but that the quality of the relationship you have with yourself shapes everything that comes from it. And a relationship built on relentless criticism tends to produce shame. And shame tends to produce avoidance. And avoidance is the opposite of the honest, courageous engagement that genuine growth actually requires. There is a story from the Buddhist tradition about a grieving woman who came to a teacher in profound pain after losing her child, asking him to restore what had been lost. The teacher listened with full attention, and then asked her to bring him a mustard seed from any household in the village that had never experienced loss or suffering. She went from house to house. Every family had a seed to offer, and every family had known grief, loss, heartbreak, illness, the particular pain of love meeting impermanence. By the end of the day, she had not found what the teacher asked for, but she had found something else. The recognition that her suffering, as real and as devastating as it was, did not mark her as uniquely abandoned by life. It marked her as human, and that recognition, the discovery that suffering is not a personal punishment but a shared condition, was the beginning of something that felt, for the first time in her grief, like connection rather than isolation. Compassion often begins exactly there, in the honest recognition that everyone is carrying something. The person who frustrated you today, the one who hurt you years ago, the stranger whose behavior made no sense. Everyone is navigating their own particular accumulation of difficulty. This does not excuse harmful behavior. It simply makes the world slightly more legible, and kindness slightly more available, when we remember it. As we close today, I want to leave you with a simple question. Who needs kindness from you right now? Perhaps it is someone you love. Perhaps it is someone you have been holding something against for longer than has served you. Or perhaps, and this is the one I want to leave with you most, it is you, the version of you that is navigating something difficult right now, that is trying its best in imperfect circumstances, that deserves at least some portion of the patience and understanding you extend to everyone else without a second thought. Begin there. One kind thought, directed honestly inward. That is enough to start. Thank you for being here with me today. Until next time, Be well.